Hi, I'm Katie Reinertz, and this is my persuasive speech. And here are my three audience members. Usually, when you are late for work, it has a negative consequence. But imagine the one day you are late, it saves your life. My cousin stayed home on the morning on September 11th because his wife was sick. When he pulled up to his normal parking spot at the Pentagon, his windshield shattered in front of him. The plane had just crashed through and it killed most of his coworkers. My cousin has never been the same since. How can you tell someone that has experienced something like that we aren't going to fight back and just let them win? I have been researching this topic for an extensive amount of time, and I feel I am well educated to inform you all about it today. It was right for the United States to invade Iraq for the most notable reasons because of the threat of Saddam places on the people of Iraq, the threat to the national security of the United States by possessing weapons of mass destruction, and creating a global threat to oil and the world's energy supply. In my speech, I will be informing you the three reasons why I feel it was correct for President Bush and his administration to invade Iraq, such as the threat that it was to Saddam that he placed on the people of Iraq, the threat to the national security of the United States by possessing weapons of mass destruction, and creating a global threat to oil and the world's energy supply. I will now begin to tell you about September 11th and the links the terrorists had to weapons of mass destruction. I'm sure many of us remember exactly where we were when the U.S. became under attack on September 11, 2001. We all have been affected by it, and maybe some of us more than others. After the attack, we Americans felt we needed to fight back. Knowing the terrorists were trained and from Iraq made us even more worried because Saddam's ability to use weapons of mass destruction. According to David Simpson from the article Response to 9/11, following the terrorist attack on the United States on September 11, 2001, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Colin Powell, found solid evidence linking Saddam Hussein to the organization believed to be responsible, Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda was believed to be linking Saddam's assembly weapons of mass destruction. The technology and capabilities involved in this world create a threat not only to the United States of America, but to the entire world. According to the Journal of Broadcasting and Electronic Media, they were believed to possess tens of thousands of both chemical and biological delivery systems, enabling them to deploy via both the traditional routes with manually operated machinery, but also included them becoming increasingly capable and dually dangerous in the deployment of unarmed aerial vessels. The threat was way too great to ignore. Now that I have informed you how 9/11 could have been linked to weapons of mass destruction, I will tell you about the global oil threat. I'm sure you have all heard about the horrible hardships on the East Coast due to Hurricane Sandy. The fuel shortages started within 24 hours, and the lines at the pump were up to 6 hours long. They had police at the gas stations just to keep order from happening. Imagine what would happen in even 1 week if our entire country did not have any oil at all. According to the article, The Global War on Terror, a large amount of the world's oil supply is produced and sold from the oil fields in Iraq. The supply there is said to be endless. Although protecting our oil interests in Iraq was not one of the initial reasons for being there, it has proved to be an added bonus and contributed in part to the length of the stay, knowing that there is the only revenue source for the people of Iraq. According to Warden G. from Cultural Politics, oil is in high demand all over the world, and the ability to maintain the supply is definitely a high priority of the United States. And it keeps us at a high position at the world's table. This not only fuels the machine in which the economy functions on, but ensures safety by empowering the positions in which the United States can maintain order of global front. Now that I've informed you about the global oil threat, I will tell you about Saddam Hussein and his cruel, cruel dictatorship. I think it's safe to say many of us take for granted the freedoms we have here in the United States. Can you imagine having the same cruel dictator for 24 years who acts in its own interest and doesn't take into account any of our own? Well, many of us in this very room enjoy friendly discussion of politics, and we can discuss with and about government policy and share why we feel this way. Can you imagine being brutally executed for having your own opinion? During Saddam Hussein's time as president, he was said to have killed over 300,000 innocent men, women, and children. Many of their deaths were said to be reached after exercising measures and has been taken to ensure horrible torture, such as amputations, electric shock, and being gassed. According to Kim H. from War Journalists, women were often falsely accused of sexual crimes and prostitution. Saddam would only have his armed forces behead these women and have their heads nailed to the doors. So it would force people to see around the neighborhood what kind of punishments they would face. The goal of the war was to put a stop to Saddam and the country of Iraq find peace. They believed that putting an end to Al-Qaeda is the first step, followed by rebuilding the structures and spirits of the people of Iraq. A great example of this is the effort of American soldiers to evolve Iraq from a dictatorship to more of a democracy setting by building schools, hospitals, and shelters for those in need. According to the article, Political Theory, they are educating the children of Iraq, and doing so allowing a helpful future for the kids. Studies have shown that the generosity shown by the American soldiers has softened the hearts and minds of many Iraqis, making them grateful for the presence of troops and feeling safer in their presence. Now that I have told you about Saddam's cruel dictatorship, I can conclude my speech by summarizing my speech with some main points. It was right for the United States to invade Iraq for the most notable reasons as previously discussed. The threat in the Saddam places on the people of Iraq, the threat to the national security of the United States by possessing weapons of mass destruction, and creating a global threat to oil and the world's energy supply. The Iraq is viewed as a necessary evil for the most notable reason, as I previously discussed. The threat that Saddam places on the people of Iraq, the national security of the United States by possessing weapons of mass destruction, and creating global threats to oil and the world's energy supply. President Bush and his administration did not decide to invade Iraq. The reasons behind the war would have not been fulfilled, and our country could have faced great crisis. Oh, and these are my 3 audience members.